What's up, everybody? Welcome to part 1 of my video series on analog saturation. Today I'm going to be telling you exactly what saturation is, and then on part 2, I'll show you how you can use it to make your mixes sound even better. Let's get started. Saturation is one of those things that you don't really learn a ton about when you're first getting started mixing. You're mostly concerned with mic technique, setting your gain, compression, EQ, and that kind of thing. At least that's how it was for me. However, over the years, as I've gotten more experience and my ears have become more finely tuned, I've noticed I'm putting saturation on more and more things. It can really take your mix from 95% up to 100%, or just from a good mix up to a great mix. So what exactly is saturation? Well, like I just said, it is by definition an analog trait, right? And analog audio is audio in the form of electricity. Digital audio is audio in the forms of ones and zeros, so you can't actually get saturation in a digital environment. You can try and copy analog saturation with emulation, but you can't naturally get that. You get that analog audio by something like a microphone, right? You're singing into it, you got that acoustic energy, hits the microphone turns it into electricity, right? And then as it goes down the cable, it now hits all of your electrical components. And each of those components has its own physical limits of how much electricity it can take, whether it's a tube or a transformer. Any of those components, they can only take so much electricity. So as you turn up the volume or the input gain and you start to get closer and closer to that limit, that's when saturation starts. And it can either be subtle or it can be pretty in your face. So with the help of my handy dandy iPad here, I'm going to go ahead and draw it out so you have a visual aid and can kind of follow along with what I'm saying. All right, so this solid line right here, it's going to be 0, and then the dashed line above that, that's going to be our physical limit to whatever electrical component we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a sound wave. Here we go. That's our happy little sound wave. Beautiful. Okay, so you see that the peak is going up above that threshold. So what the component is going to do is it's going to round that off nicely, just like that. And that is saturation. Now imagine that we hit that a little bit harder, so your wave is going to look bigger, like this. Now you're getting a lot of saturation going above that line, and this is going to be even more in your face. But just to contrast, if you were to go over a digital limit, right, there's just like analog, there are digital limits with how high your signal can go. It would take off that high peak and just draw a straight line right there. And that sounds terrible. Nobody likes that. So we like this happy little curve right there. And now for the really observant people out there, you may be looking at that saying, hey, that looks kind of like compression. Yeah, that's basically one of the effects of it. So it's called soft limiting. If you have a snare drum, which is my favorite thing to saturate, and you put it on there, it's going to catch those transients and it's going to help make them sound more consistent. And just like good compression, saturation can also add energy to whatever you put it on. That's another one of the really good effects of it. Also, in addition to that, especially if you're hitting your components hard and causing a lot of saturation, you get harmonics. Now, what are harmonics? So this wave here, this is a sine wave, meaning it is a single frequency. You're not going to find that in nature anywhere. Everything in nature makes multiple frequencies at the same time and looks a little bit more like this. Right, so a sine wave has the one frequency, and when you create harmonics, you can either create harmonics below that frequency, meaning lower, or higher above that frequency. Those are going to look like this. So let's just say this frequency is 440 hertz. That's an A. Okay, let's see if I can do this. So let's say it creates an octave harmonic, meaning 880 hertz. That's gonna look like that. Yeah, I did it. All right. And of course, when those two combine, they look more like this, which is that organic sound that we just talked about. Okay, so it can create multiple harmonics, it can create multiple octaves, it can do fifths, it can do all kinds of stuff. And that's that character that we love from records before we started doing digital recording. You know, all those great and super energetic songs that we've been listening to for decades and decades that we try and emulate with a digital DAW. All right, now you know what saturation is, but make sure you check out part 2 of this video series where I show you how to use saturation to make your mixes sound even better. In the meantime, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.